I almost ruined my dream game twice, and here's how. As you probably know, I recently switched from Unity to Unreal, and it was a huge deal. When switching, every sane developer should obviously start with the planning of the project, and I did exactly that. So, first of all, everybody uses a different type of to-do list system. For example, a standardized to-do list, or a Kanban board, or any other form of task list. In my case, I use a sprint system, which basically means you complete a series of tasks in a short amount of time, and that is what's called a sprint. While planning the project and doing my sprints, I set off doing the UI and the multiplayer first, which was the first mistake. I added a lobby system and server lists, etc., and fully synchronized multiplayer, which in it of itself is a great task to start with, since it's a core system and you will need to implement it later with all the systems you have created, which can be more difficult in the long run. So I created the multiplayer first. But now the problem: I added the UI, and I added a bunch of UI. So I added the main menu, and I made it fully functional and made it look nice. I added a shop and a really basic garage, and I didn't have any amount of gameplay. Not only did I not have any amount of gameplay, but my girlfriend also told me that my game didn't really stand out from other racing games. Basically looked like every other racing game that tries to be realistic, for example like Forza or Need for Speed. And that's the point where I decided I'm gonna change up the art style a bit. I ended up reading a lot about cell shading, which is basically a old technique of lighting, and I added that to my car shader to make it look nicer and have more a cartoony feel to it, while at the same time making the whole world and the glass and reflections realistic. This did not only make the car stand out a bit more from the world, but it also gave my game a unique art style, which I really like. This is more about making my game characteristic instead of adding gameplay. So, what does every racing game need? That's right, police. So I set off to my journey to learn about a custom pathfinding algorithm which I can implement with my police, and most importantly, a system which I can easily add to my behavior tree to make the police have more variety in their actions. So now the police actually sees the player, and when it sees the player, it calculates a path towards the player in form of a spline. It then tracks those spline points and drives towards the player. When the police AI is close to the player, it actually slows down and stops in front of the player, and then there should be a arrest system in place, which I am still working on implementing. I did also tinker with other ideas on how to make my game more unique. One of them was to add the Batmobile. I'm sure everyone knows Batman and loves this character, so I decided I could maybe add the Batmobile as a drivable car, for example for drag races or other races. What do you think of this idea? I would greatly appreciate some feedback on this idea. But for this, I also need to implement a few different other races. My plan now is to still add a few different races because I don't have any actual races, and add different enemy types. For example, having a heavy armored police vehicle or a helicopter to follow the player, and also make them all multiplayer synchronized to work with other systems, so you can obviously play with your friends via Steam. My advice on this topic is to obviously use a to-do list or Kanban or sprint system, and to always choose gameplay first and add gameplay, however raw it might be. Focus on making the game and your UI look and feel nice later. The only thing I have left to say is to subscribe and join our Discord in the description below. Have a great day and have fun developing.